Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Active Life Podcast, the #1 podcast for fitness professionals by fitness professionals. In a world that is dominated by gym bros and gym bro podcasts, we are the one for the professionals.
Shining unicorn, sterling professional.
Welcome back. Joined in studio once again with Larry. Before we get into today's episode, remember the price of admission. Like, share, subscribe.
If you guys need more statistics, 3 kittens are saved every like. I think it's 2 dogs, 2 cats are saved every share. 10 animals of your choice are spared every subscription. So get people doing all those things.
Yep.
If you care about animals.
Well, segue into the topic of today.
Yeah. Best topic ever.
So today, one of the things that I've been talking about on the Client Experience Lab over the last month or so is this difference between the victim mentality and creator mentality. And
you said victim and creator?
Victim and creator.
Okay.
So the victim mentality is an acquired personality trait where a person tends to regard himself or herself as the victim of the negative actions of others, even in the absence of clear evidence.
Can you say it again? Can you say it a little slower?
Yes. The victim mentality is an acquired personality trait where a person tends to regard themselves as the victim of the negative actions of others, even in the absence of clear evidence. The last piece is the victim mentality depends on habitual thought processes and attributions.
The victim mentality depends on habitual thought processes and attributions.
It's a habit. It's not we wake up one day
And we're a victim.
and we're a victim. Now, to caveat this, look, man, we've all been a victim at a certain point in our lives. A victim of circumstance, another person, of a situation.
Yeah, so this isn't to say that you can't be a victim of something or that you can't be victimized.
Yes. There's a difference between being a victim in a moment and cultivating the identity of a victim. That's what we're talking about here. So that was a long definition. If you want to think about a more simple one, it can be any time that your emotional state is dictated by someone or something else, you are in the victim mentality.
Okay.
The creator realizes that there's abundance and opportunity everywhere. The creator mentality, if we're thinking of it being the inverse, is going to be they take ownership of their lives, there's personal responsibility, and they decide that their life is everything that they have had a hand in creating. That's the creator mentality.
So responsibility is a huge separator here, eh?
Personal responsibility, yeah.
Is it the separator?
I think so.
Okay.
It's the something else is responsible for my state and my situation versus I am responsible for my state and my situation.
All right. So I want to really flesh this out for people because I think it's going to affect the way that people see, think, believe, make decisions, and then ultimately what they have or don't have. So the creator and the victim have they're opposites. They're the inverse of each other, but each of them has corresponding other characters that are associated with them, right? Can you walk us through those and then we'll make sure that each character is understood so that we can see them in ourselves and do things different?
Yes. So if you think about a triangle, right? These triangles are mirrored. The bottom triangle is called the drama triangle.
All right. So for people still trying to visualize this, imagine an upside down triangle. Point at the bottom, 2 points up at the top.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the drama triangle. At the base of that triangle is the victim.
Okay.
We'll flesh out all of the things, but that's the victim.
So the bottom point's a victim.
Yes. The top right is the hero. Top left is the villain. And if you think about this logically, what does every hero need? It needs a victim, needs somebody to save, and it needs a villain.
Interesting.
It needs someone to fight against. It needs the big bad. It needs the big bad wolf.
It's interesting to say, what does a hero need? Yeah.
It needs those things to be able to be the hero. The villain needs to have opposition. It needs to have somebody to victimize, which is the victim, and it needs to have a hero to fight against. The victim, as the villain, needs the hero because the victim always needs saving.
Wow. That's so crazy. That's so crazy. So to think that if you're going to blame someone else for your lousy situation, it means that you're also at the behest of someone's willingness to save you.
Yeah.
If you're ever going to be better.
Yep.
That's intense.
There's an entire lack of empowerment in the victim. The victim's always waiting.
So you're powerless. You're powerless to protect yourself from what someone's doing to you, and you're powerless to get yourself out of it.
Yes,
that's wild.
Yep, it's being in the hole and just waiting for someone, blaming the person who put you there, and waiting for someone to come get you out.
No, thank you.
That's the victim.
I'm not interested in that at all.
No, I agree. But look, I've found myself in honest reflection. I've found myself slipping into these.
Same. I've been there.
Yeah.
I'm just no thanks.
No,
not going forward.
There are 3 kind of pillars that I've been able to establish and find for each one of these. And I didn't make this up. Like the empowerment triangle, the drama triangle, I didn't make these up. These are well established. But 3 pillars identify the victim.
Was this Marcus Aurelius? This was Marcus Aurelius' work, right?
I don't know. Didn't do enough research.
Yeah, I'm joking. It's not Marcus Aurelius. Go on.
It makes sense. It could be a Stoic kind of philosophy. The very first pillar of the victim is that their emotional state is dictated by someone or something outside themselves. We already talked about that. Number 2 is that there's a tremendous amount of fear. The victim lives in fear. So if we're thinking about our nervous system as an example, one of the things that I love to pay attention to with clients is where are they breathing when they walk in to the facility when they come in.
When you say where, you mean where in their bodies is the breath happening?
Yes. Is it high and tight? So they're breathing up into their chest, short and shallow? That indicates that they are most likely in that sympathetic system. Fight, flight, or freeze. That is a key piece of how the victim operates in the world. Is they're constantly stressed. They're constantly in that fight, flight, or freeze because it shuts off the thinking part of the brain. It shuts off the prefrontal cortex. It's all amygdala hijacked. We're in the lizard part of the brain, and it's all about survival. The victim lives in survival. They're afraid. They are also powerless. That's the 3rd pillar of the victim.
So it's emotional state dictated by others' actions. You're afraid and you're powerless.
Yes. Powerless to do anything about it. The hero, we already touched on, needs to save others. And the inverse, we'll talk about the inverse of each one of these because it's really interesting to see. I think a lot of us in the coaching space often start off as trying to be the hero.
Yeah.
We think that I'm going to save you.
See that a lot in the dating world too.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So the respectable intention that turns into a mistake is that a coach might find themselves wanting to save a client.
Yes.
Okay.
They are also, the hero seeks temporary relief. There's no long-term solution here. It's always fighting the dragon, knowing that there's another dragon. It's always, again, the hero always needs a victim.
I'd love to make friends with a dragon instead of fighting it.
Could you?
I don't know.
Maybe.
That'd be cool.
The hero is seeking the temporary relief. It's going from one thing to the next. They're always looking for the next battle. The hero always, to be able to be in that energy, you always need a fight.
Yeah. You can't ever let your guard down. Your sword's always up. Your shield's always up. Yep. Let's get after it all the time. And
you're always looking for a victim, by the way. You're always looking for somebody to save. The last pillar of the hero
can that be I'm thinking about people who just say, I just love help people. I just always want to go out and help people as much as possible. And I'm thinking about people who feel that their role is to be a helper. Yeah.
Look, that was one of the identities that I lived into for a very long time. I don't know if you ever had these, but when I was young, I was given one of these cards that had what my name meant and then a little kind of parable about it.
Never seen that.
My name means helper. Cody.
In what language?
I don't know. It was like a Bible thing. It was something from like the Bible bookstore that my little brothers was Garrett was warrior and I was helper.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So I took that identity. It was that. It was what you're describing. It was always looking, seeking to help. Now, that is not the sign of the hero. It's not that the hero doesn't want to help.
Yeah.
It's that the hero wants to save.
Uh-huh.
Helping somebody means that you're empowering them.
Yeah, I see. I see the difference. Okay.
The last pillar for the hero is that the hero needs to be right.
So run through those 3 again for the hero.
The hero needs to save others, seeks temporary relief, and needs to be right. The villain, which is the last character in the drama triangle, blames others and self. The villain is always looking to blame. It's seeking to blame. they are problem dominant. The problem dominates everything, right? It's this thing that happened to me that turned me into the villain that it just consumes every aspect now. And then the villain tears down. They want anarchy, for lack of a better word, in the moment. They want to tear it all down. They want to burn it all down. They want to burn it to ash. Something bad happened. It happened to them. It happened around them. It happened to someone that they know, love, and care about. And they took that and they used it as a piece of evidence for why everything needs to burn now. That's the villain. In this space that we're in, I think, like you had already said, a lot of us as coaches might start as trying to be heroes, and we might not understand the negative consequences of trying to be the hero.
What are some of the negative consequences of trying to be a hero?
You're not empowering your clients. Right?
So you're creating a sense of dependability.
Yeah, it's dependency.
So in other words, you're keeping them a victim.
Yes. You're empowering that. And you're always looking for the next fight. You're always looking for the next villain. You always need somebody to persecute, to save the world from, to save the individual from. So that's the drama triangle. That's the bottom triangle. Now, if we're thinking about the inverse, right? So the empowerment triangle, which would be the light side. If we think about the drama triangle is the shadow side, the light side, the three characters there, the direct inverse of the victim is the creator. The coach is the inverse of the hero, and the challenger is the inverse of the victim. So we can start with creator.
Run through the three one more time.
Yes. Creator, inverse of victim. Coach, inverse of hero. Challenger, inverse of villain. The creator owns their power and chooses to respond. Rather than being like, look, this thing happened to me, there's nothing that I can do about it. They choose action. They choose to respond, not react, respond. And they choose to own whatever they can own in the situation.
What's the difference between react and respond in your eyes?
Reacting is not well thought out. It's taking a piece of information and making the decision to jump on it right away. So look, when we're in a dangerous situation, we had an episode about this. It's biologically advantageous for us in certain situations to react and not respond. If the brushes are rustling 10,000 years ago, that might be the tiger that we need to react. We don't need to think about, I wonder what that sound might be. We need to be able to react. Responding is taking time to understand the situation, the scenario, and then choose how you want to act based on that information.
Yeah, I mean, the time also, it could be a fraction of a second. It just means that there's a little bit of space where there isn't this automatic reflex.
Yes. Like if somebody throws a ball at you, like throws a football at you, and you
Been there.
without even thinking, you're reacting. You're not responding. Like athletes want to train this. They want to train their reaction.
Yeah.
They don't want to have to think about, should I turn my body? Should I turn my head? Do I look up?
Right.
You want that.
You want your hand to be in the right place without thinking about it.
Where responding is taking the time.
I see. Okay.
The second pillar of the creator is their emotional state is dictated by themselves. It goes back into the respond versus react thing. If you're angry, it could be trying to understand where that's coming from, deciding whether you want to give more power to that emotion or that feeling. The creator focuses on courage rather than fear. And courage is not the absence of fear. What's courage to you?
To me, courage is acting in spite of fear.
I agree with that.
What's really interesting about this is I think it was Maya Angelou. She said, courage needs to be the first virtue because it enables all the others. You can't exhibit, all of the other virtues depend on you exhibiting courage first. And I have been thinking about that for this past few days to a week or so, and I really appreciate that because the world can be a really scary place with a lot of unpredictable people and things and events. And if we want something and we want to move forward into a thing that we think is going to be more beautiful, more fulfilling, more joyful, more of whatever we want it to be, or less of whatever we want it to be, it's going to take courage first to decide that we're going to be the kinds of people that are going to do it. And so to me, courage is acting in a responsible way, in a powerful way, in the face of fear.
Hey, it's Dr. Sean here reminding you that if you are a coach who wants to fill the gap neglected by fitness and healthcare, and you want to make a career doing it, we might be able to help you. Head to the show notes. There's a link there. You're going to click that link to download the ALP curriculum. That's the stuff that we teach to coaches over the course of 13 months to turn them into world-class professionals who never have to worry about missing a paycheck again, doing work they love to do. Go ahead and check that out, and I'll see you on the other side. Let's get you back to the show.
Feel good on creator?
Yeah. Can you run through the 3 things one more time? Just because I did a great job of walking us through the birds and the bees in between.
That was great.
Yeah.
The first one, the creator owns their power, chooses to respond. Their emotional...
What do you mean by owns their power? What does that mean? Because I think there are a lot of people here that are afraid of their power. I am.
What do you mean?
I would love for you to just answer what it means first, and then I can talk about myself. But I think that there's at least one other person that's listening to this that can relate when they say, I know what it feels like to be afraid of your own power.
I struggle with that because I don't understand.
Then I might just have to speculate what it might mean for someone who's afraid, because it doesn't sound like you're afraid of your own power.
Yeah. So what is it?
Great. So then I'll speak to it. Yeah. Have you heard the expression, you're not afraid of, was it Mandela? He says, we're not afraid of how dim our light might be. It's about how bright it might be.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. We're not afraid of playing small. We're afraid of playing big. That's what I mean there.
Is it afraid of playing big because of like not getting the thing?
To me, it's a combination. It's part of it is failure. And the other part of it is I struggle to have next to people who don't. I struggle being capable next to people who aren't. And so to me, when you say owning your power, it's deciding to embrace that and decide, are you better off with or without power? And I think that most people that are listening to this probably realize that they're better off with it, because they're not, if you were given a whole bunch of power, I imagine that in the same way money works, it's going to make you more of who you already are. And if you're more powerful and you're listening to this, you're probably not going to decide, oh, I should go to a drug den and get into human trafficking. I think that you're probably going to do, to a greater scale, more of the good that you're already trying to do. So to me, when you say owning your power, I think it's worth pausing on, because there, I think a lot of people who are afraid of what they're actually capable of and the responsibility that comes with that. So yeah, thanks for allowing the pause. So number one for the creator. The creator decides, this power is mine to have. I ought to have it. I want to use it. And
then how am I going to respond based on that?
Okay.
Number 2 is that their emotional state is dictated by themselves. And then number 3 is they choose courage over fear. Moving on to the coach, who I think this will speak to a lot of the people that
the coach is the inverse of the hero.
The coach is the inverse of the hero. So if the hero needs to save others, the coach focuses on empowering others to save themselves. If the hero seeks the temporary relief, the coach is going to look for the solution. The long-term solution is creating independence in the client that you're working with versus keeping them dependent.
What a difference.
For the client.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. If I can, it's the teach a man to fish.
Yeah.
Versus catch him a fish.
Yeah, it's huge. Well, think about how many examples there are of that, and even in our industry, man. Like, it sounds like this is relevant to a lot, but it's the difference between someone getting a massage so their back feels better for a few hours versus putting their body in a position through exactly what their body needs to be better at, so that their back doesn't hurt in the first place and feels great going forward. That's a really good visual. So the coach is focused on a solution over temporary relief.
Yep. They're also going to facilitate clarity by asking questions. The hero's going to always have the answer, right? The hero needs to be right.
That's the need to be right thing. I see.
The hero needs to be right. They're going to have the answer. For every question, they know, like, the answer, and my answer is the right one, by the way. You know why you're struggling with nutrition? Because you just need to start counting your macros. You need to be making sure that you're getting 1.1 grams of protein for every pound of lean body mass. You need to clean out your pantry. You just need to take it more seriously. That's the hero. The coach is going to look at, if you're inspired by the nutritional aspect, you're going to look at all of the factors that play into this individual and ask all of the questions to this individual to help them figure out why their nutritional habits are the way that they are right now.
Starting with, why do you think your nutritional habits are the way they are right now?
Yeah, right.
Instead of, can I tell you why your nutritional habits are the way they are right now?
Yes.
What a difference.
So the coach is going to facilitate clarity by asking good questions. The last thing that they're going to do, and I do have 4 things for this one because I think it's important to visualize. The coach chooses and consistently makes the decision to walk beside the client.
As opposed to
in front of. If you're thinking about the hero, right? What is one of the first things that the hero does? Pushes the victim behind them.
Right.
Just get behind me, my sword and my shield, and I'm going to save you. The coach is the guide. They're walking right beside the client, step by step, side by side, highlighting, hey, if we go this way, here's the potential outcome. If we go this way or this way, here's what the next 3 steps could determine.
I'm thinking about raising kids with all of these analogies, and how you can be your kid's hero to a fault.
When they're young, you should be.
Oh, sure. But I'm talking about like an 8-year-old where you're making the decisions for them and you're telling them the right way to do it when there might be 100 right ways to do it.
Yeah, that reminds me of like helicopter parents.
That's exactly what I was just thinking about.
Or bulldozer parents.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. Okay.
So the coach, the pillars of this one is they're empowering others by facilitating clarity by asking they empower others, number 1. Number 2 is they facilitate clarity by asking good questions. They walk beside the client, and they seek to be wise versus seeking to be right. They're taking in all of the information. They're saying, okay, what could the best solution for this person be? How do I need to guide them to finding this solution? That's seeking to be wise. They want all of the information versus the hero who needs to be right. We see this in our space too. Right? The dogma of, look, I came from the CrossFit background. Everyone needs to be doing constantly varied functional movement form at high intensity.
It's literally the suppression of information.
Yeah.
Don't want to be exposed to new information.
Yep. So the coach seeks to be wise. Anything else on coach and hero?
No, it's good.
The last one, the inverse of the villain, is the challenger. So the challenger calls for learning and focuses on growth. In all of the things, the experiences, they're going to call for the learning and focus on growth, where the villain is going to blame others and self. Right? They make the decision that this was a bad thing, this is a bad thing, or this is a good thing, and now that's it. We're going. And by the way, you or myself, I'm responsible for the bad thing. That's the villain.
Okay.
Where the challenger is going to focus on growth. It's going to say, okay, based on this thing that happened, good, bad, indifferent, right? I'm not attaching to good or bad with this.
So this is in response to a thing.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm taking the learnings. I'm going, okay, this thing that happened, what's the lesson here? What can I learn from this? Versus this thing is bad and it's your fault, it's my fault that it happened.
I see.
What can I learn from this? And then what opportunity do we have to grow on the other side of this? That's the challenger.
Okay.
The challenger provokes and evokes action. Right? If we're thinking again about the villain being problem dominant and placing blame, the challenger orients towards action. Now that we have this thing, this scenario, this information, what can we do with this? We're going to take some sort of action there. The last thing that the challenger is going to do is it's going to highlight opportunity to build up, where the villain is going to tear down. Right? Because of all of these things happen, I'm going to burn it all to the ground. The challenger is going to say, okay, even though all of these things happened, where is the opportunity here to build up now in response to this?
What's the first piece to pick up?
Yes.
House exploded. What's the first piece to pick up?
Yeah. Right. That's cool. I like that.
Is it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Like the house burn. Like, look, house burns down, house explodes. You can find yourself it's easy to see yourself becoming this villain if you're like, the world is against me. This is your fault that this happened. Now, you know what? I lost mine, so you should lose yours too.
Oh man, this is reminding me of a big change that happened for me immediately in the wake of Hurricane Sandy here in New York. 13 years ago now. So this was a pretty critical period for me, and I remember my friend and I. So we took shelter in his house while the whole place got flooded, and then the next morning, we actually waded around in our waist in the muck in Long Beach for like 4 hours in the middle of the night after the whole thing passed. But the next morning we went around, and I made my way to my house. Couldn't stay in my house because his house was a little higher. So, oh man, I got there and I opened up the door to my house, and my couch was in my kitchen, and my fridge was in my living room. I'll never forget it, dude. Everything was everywhere.
Wow.
And I remember immediately, as soon as I saw it, I watched my entire being without my choice just choose a direction at this bifurcation where I could have either been, I watched two versions of myself immediately. Choice A was collapse to my knees. I've lost everything. What am I going to do? 2 was, oh, I don't own any things anymore. What do I do now? And I literally didn't choose it. And I think that in that moment, my entire body knew it was like, you don't have the capacity to do the first one, because it's just, don't do that.
Yeah.
And I just immediately was like, Rick, I don't own any more things. What should I pick? Start moving first. That happened there. And it's such a big difference, because that I had previously done the first thing with things like that. And after that, I think it really kicked my ass from one dimension to the other in terms of how to start behaving that way. It's a really big difference with respect to how you decide to handle things that happen.
I like that.
So Challenger says, all right,
To me, that one says more creator versus victim.
Tell me more.
The instance that you're describing, where the victim would have just collapsed to the knees and been like, what am I going to do now? This is all for naught. This is over. The creator says, well, I guess I don't have any things anymore.
I see. So then I guess I thought that would be, I'm still learning this, obviously. I guess that I thought that would be the Challenger saying, what's the first thing to pick up?
It could be a piece of that.
Okay.
Right. So if we're thinking about these three characters, the thing to remember is, even in the empowerment triangle, like, these are still dependent on each other.
I see. They work together.
Yes.
That makes sense.
So where I think about going with the villain and the challenger is, I try to stay as binary as possible.
The archetypes are really victim or creator.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
And then each of the other two are supporting characters that help either the victim or aspects of the victim or the creator.
Yeah. And they could be their own individuals as well, depending on the scenario.
So what do people start to do with this, and how do they start to use it to do something good for themselves?
For me, one of the first things that we can do is first identify where, and as accurately and as honestly as you can without any judgment, identify where you find yourself.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. Yes. Good point. Where you find yourself most of the time. If you're like, a victim will often say things like, things happen to me, where the creator things happen for me. Right. So how do you view the world? Do you view it as things are happening to you, or are you viewing them as things are happening for you? Right. Going back to the breathing. Are you noticing that we're able to consistently breathe low and slow, that parasympathetic breathing, because that engages the thinking part of the brain? That's where we have the opportunity to process information. Or are we breathing high and tight? Are we trapped up into the chest all of the time, most of the time? In the coaching profession, are you noticing yourself presenting the story, even if you're not saying it out loud, but are you creating the story in your head that you're the savior? That you are there to save your clients and they would be nowhere without you? That used to be one of the things when I was coaching that I immediately picked up on whenever people would be like, I could have never done this without you. Yes, you could have. You just chose to do it with me, which I'm thankful for. But you wanted to do this. You would have been able to do this with the right coach.
Wow. I think that if no one takes away anything other than this, then having their ears perked for the next time one of their clients tells them, I couldn't have done this without you, or anyone saying I couldn't have done this without you, and you just choosing to immediately say, yes, you could have. That is a massive gift for you to be able to give that person.
It makes them feel a whole lot different.
Yeah.
And you get a little bit of that initial, like, no, I couldn't have. That's you staying in that, be like, yes, you could have. You just needed a good coach.
Well, what's really cool about that is the person in that perspective that concedes to the, okay, maybe you couldn't have done it without me. Like, you're living as a hero there, and you're choosing, okay, I'm not going to empower my client. When you say, put yourself in their shoes, when they say, no, really, I couldn't have done it without you, they're choosing dependency on you in that moment.
They're choosing, without even knowing it, to be a victim.
Yes. And when you say, well, I appreciate that, that's very kind of you, I'm glad to know that, you're behaving as the hero, and you're letting them remain a victim.
You're allowing that, yeah.
So for you to hold your ground and say, you could have, you're literally forcing responsibility and empowerment for them that they might be too afraid to take, and they might be really uncomfortable in that moment, and they might even resent you for it, but it's actually what your job is.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's cool. I appreciate you sharing that.
That's a great way to think about it. So let's identify where we're at, where you find your clients at, and you're going to notice the patterns of language, the way that they're talking about themselves. Are they focused on problems, or are they focused on opportunities? If they're focused on problems, they're probably in victim mentality. Okay. If they're focused on opportunities, it's a good sign that they're in that creator mentality. I just had a discovery session with a lady today who's 80 years old, 2 new knees 8 years ago, new hip replacement 4 weeks ago. She's doing 3 days a week of physical therapy. And she's like, I'm good. I feel great. Like, I am going to do this. I know that I'm going to do this, and I'm going to stay active as long as I can for the rest of my life. She is not a victim. She's had both knees replaced, a shoulder replaced, and a hip replaced. And that woman at 80 years old does not identify herself as a victim. That's really cool to see.
Yeah, it is.
Versus the person who comes in and sits down across from me and is like, I just don't know what happened. I mean, I've had such a terrible last 8 years. I had this happen, I had this happen, and this happen. And I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. That's you being able to identify, okay, this person is living in this victim mentality, and that thing bleeds. It's not just the one area of their physical capacity. It's bleeding into other areas of their life as well.
Well, I would say, based on the clip of that person that you just shared, I would say that if they say, I just don't know where to do, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to start, but I'm ready to, that doesn't sound or feel victim-y to me.
I agree with that.
I would say that the person who said...
Because they're oriented towards action.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, they're sitting across from you because they want to do a thing.
Yeah.
So they're orienting toward, they see some light, right? They could still be trapped in a victim mentality.
Sure. But they see light. And I think that when you start to hear people, wherever you're talking to them in the street, in the coffee shop, whatever it is, at a party, and you hear the people who are talking about, yes, this is what happens, I guess, this is just how it is now, that's victim-y.
Yeah. This is just what happens when you get old.
Right. And they're 43.
Yeah. Even 60.
Sure.
60 is the new 40.
Yes.
Identify. So figure out where you're at, the patterns, and then start to, again, we're talking to coaches, we're talking to professionals. Once you start to identify, do they have these patterns of behavior or patterns of language that lead you to believe that they might be in this victim mentality? You can start to shine a light on that for them and with them. Right? Educate them. Take this, make notes on this episode, present this as a piece of education to them. So that, because once we know it, we do better.
Yeah. Know better, you do better.
Yes. Teach somebody this. Present them with the information. Allow them to make a decision that empowers them, and you're helping to empower them versus trying to present yourself as the savior.
So, number one, if there were homework here to make good use of this and actually go make some positive change in your life, the first one is just see these 6 characters, understand these aspects of them, and decide, where do I live most of the time? In the places, let's say that you decide that you live as a creator most of the time. Where are some times that you can find yourself being either victim-y, hero-y, or villainy, and see if you can pull some energy out of those and allocate them more towards the other 3.
Yep. And then identify, remember, these things need each other. These characters need each other. Identify, if you're in that creator energy, who do you have that is a coach for you? It might not be a physical coach, right? It might not be a personal trainer. It could be a mentor. It could be a guide. Somebody there that is helping you in the coach role.
So you're talking about actually another person who behaves as that character to you.
Look, the times of my life that the personal growth and development have been the most accelerated is when I've had some sort of coach or mentor.
So if you're stepping into the role, if you want to be stepping more and more into the role of a creator in your life instead of a victim, it means surround yourself with at least a person who can treat you like a coach would, and a person who will challenge you in a way that evokes or invokes your action.
Yes.
Nice.
Those are, if you start with those two, you can listen to future episodes that we'll do to continue fleshing this out to find other things. That's a great place to start.
Perfect. Nice job, that Cody. Thank you.
See you out there.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Active Life podcast. If you did, please head to wherever you listen and leave us that 5-star rating. It really does go a long way. 5 stars goes a long way. Please leave them. If you're interested in working with us as a coach, remember, we help coaches from around the world build fulfilling careers, working with clients they're inspired to help so they never have to worry about being able to pay your bills again. No one's ever going to ask you if you are going to get a real job when you work with Active Life. All you have to do, head into the show notes, click the link that you find there, download our curriculum. That will give you a feel for what it is going to take for you to be successful. A team member of ours will reach out to you to find out if it's a fit for us to work together. Till the next show, turn pro.